Middle Earth for me, this is probably the nerdiest thing about me, is the world that I love everything about. I love anything that goes into the psychology of how man's mind works and why people do the things they do, and when faced with difficult situations, what do people choose to do. And I just love all that stuff, and the fact that it's in this beautiful world. I feel like especially when there's dark things that happen, you know, that you see in the news or around the world. One time actually when there was a really sad moment, I remember turning on The Lord of the Rings and just getting comfort from all the wisdom. Hello and welcome back. As you may have noticed, I'm going to be talking about books today, and as you may have also noticed, one of the books that I am now rereading is going to be one of these. So I finished Gentleman in Moscow a couple days ago, which again, love that book. Rereading it was amazing. Now I will be rereading The Lord of the Rings, starting with, of course, The Fellowship of the Rings. And as you can see in this series, it separates it into 3 different books. I just recently got this series. I thought it was beautiful. This version of it, it's very, you know, old world, and I really loved it. But the first time I ever read The Lord of the Rings, it was this one here, which is all of them in one as Tolkien intended it. But I reread The Hobbit, was actually the first book that I reread when I started rereading back earlier in the fall. So anyways, yeah, this is my new book that I'm rereading. I am so excited. I think there's levels of when it comes to like a fantasy made up world, especially like Middle Earth for me. And this is probably the nerdiest thing about me, is the world that I love everything about. And it shows. Obviously Tolkien, I mean, he put his heart and soul into that work. More than a decade of just writing The Lord of the Rings and creating the world, and like his whole life in a way was devoted to Middle Earth and creating it, and he was just so meticulous and perfect in all that he did. But I feel like there's levels to these worlds that people create, and obviously there's the movies, and you know, the movies are amazing as well, but it's never the book. And then there's also games that you can play to kind of immerse yourself in the book, and that's kind of another level of like, you're not just watching something, now you're in it. But to me at least, I feel like the books, I mean, first of all, it's the way that the author intended it. So it's, you know, every detail is from the creator of that world itself. And also, it's just so much more detailed than any book than any movie or game or anything like that. So I just feel like with books, and it takes you the longest amount of time. You just immerse yourself fully in this world. And obviously now it's cool because there's, you know, I love to turn on like a YouTube scene that matches whatever I'm reading, or, you know, a cool scene that I kind of want to be immersed into in the moment. There's a whole soundtrack, a wonderful soundtrack from the movie. And so there's other ways to immerse yourself, but I was just so excited because I feel like with the world of Middle Earth, with the world of Tolkien, this has been my experience, and it seems a common experience. The more that you indulge in it, the more that your affection grows for it. And I feel like that has definitely been the case. I actually looked it up recently because I started rereading The Lord of the Rings to see like when I first started reading Lord of the Rings. And I remember early on I was like, okay, should I legit did research, like, is this worth my time to invest into? And by that point I read many of C.S. Lewis's works, and Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were friends. Even though they differed, even in their world making, they differed in the way that they did it and thought about it, but they were still good friends. And so anyways, I was like, okay, who is this Tolkien guy? And so I remember in 2018 is when I purchased The Lord of the Rings, my first copy of it, and I started reading it and I loved it. I love anything that goes into the psychology of how man's mind works and why people do the things they do, and when faced with difficult situations, what do people choose to do? And I just love all that stuff, and the fact that it's in this beautiful world that was created as well. This beautiful fantasy world is just a big bonus, obviously, to get immersed in that. So yeah, 2018 is when I first started, and maybe, I mean, The Hobbit I might have read even in 2017, but either way, around that time is when I first started immersing myself in that world. And then in 2019, I had such an honor and privilege to go to New Zealand, which is one of the most beautiful countries I have been to. The landscape, like if you love nature, you will fall in love with New Zealand. And I only went to one island. I went to the North Island, and it was just so beautiful. Like, we stayed in the city, which was a mistake, I will say that. I mean, it's fine to stay in the city, but there's so much you want to see there across the island. And so we ended up driving, I kid you not, 3 hours one way every single day, which is a lot of driving, especially when you're trying to see things and you only have a week there. So in the future, if I did it again, which I want to with my husband, because that was a girls trip before I was married, but I want to either like rent a trailer that you can just go place to place, or strategically get different Airbnbs, not just one that you have to keep going back to. Plus they drive on the other side of the road, so it's like you're using your whole mind the entire time that you're driving. So it's just like, even that tires you out, because you're constantly like, okay, do I need to be on this side or this side? And anyways, I have stories from that for days, but but we went to Hobbiton when we were there, and I think I was the only girl that had actually read The Lord of the Rings. And I think we tried to watch the movies, but it was a busy trip because we went to Australia before that, so we never actually watched the movies. I think we tried, and then we were so exhausted we fell asleep, which sounds so bad. I love the movies now, but anyways, we got to go to Hobbiton, which is the movie set that they actually remade for The Hobbit, because they took it down after Lord of the Rings, and then they remade it, I believe, in the same location for The Hobbit, and then left it up as a tourist attraction. And so it was so magical and cozy and beautiful. They have all these little cozy hilltop homes, you know, the water, everything that's described in the book. And they have the green dragon, which you can go and get either a drink or just like a ginger beer. And it was just the coolest experience. And all the employees love their job. Like, you can tell the tour guide was like, I grew up loving Lord of the Rings, and this is such a dream that I get to work here. They were saying that because they have actual gardens and stuff there, and they grow vegetables and all these different things. And they were saying that the farmers that work the gardens, or the gardeners, they actually get to take that stuff home, which I thought was really cool. It was such a cool experience. And like I said, I want to go back with my husband, because I've gotten him into all the Lord of the Rings stuff too. Not to the extent that I am in, but this pillow, actually, he got me. It's such a beautiful pillow of the world of Middle Earth and the Shire. And I feel like, you know, I love the beauty of Rivendell and the elves and all that, but the Shire is definitely where my heart is, and just the cozy life, which is basically what this channel is about, is cozy life and enjoying life. And I feel like the Hobbits definitely represent that. So I also thought it was appropriate because this year is the 25-year anniversary that the Lord of the Rings came out in movies, in the movie theater, which is really cool as well. So yeah, after I reread all these books, we'll go through all the extended editions again and watch them. And speaking of the extended editions, so like I said, the more that you immerse yourself in this world, the more you grow an affection for it. Like, I just have more, every time I rewatch it or reread, I just get so much more out of it. And I think that's my favorite type of fiction or movies to watch, is when it's not just a story, but it's a story that actually changes your life and helps you grow for the better in some way. And that's what I aim to do with my books, is not just a beautiful story, but also I want to add value to people that read the books. And I definitely feel that way every time I read Lord of the Rings, every time I watch the movies. There's such a comfort, even though they're so tumultuous with all the wars and everything going on. It's that hope that, hey, in the end, things will work out. In the end, good does win over evil. And I just feel like he does such a good job showing that in the books especially, but the movies also captured a good amount of that as well. But yeah, we have done marathons on for these movies. We did, one full day for all the Hobbit movies, and then another full day for the Lord of the Rings movies. And actually, I think the first time we did it, it was like an unplanned marathon where we're just like, let's just watch them all. And so I think it was a weekend. On Saturday, we literally watched all 3 Hobbits. And then it was a Sunday, we watched the first movie. And then I think church was later at the time. Went to church. And then we're like, should we stick around and hang out with people, or should we go finish the rest? And we're like, let's go finish the rest. So we ended up the whole weekend watching all 6 movies. And then after that, I saw people doing full-on planned marathons. So I did it. I planned out, basically me, my husband, my little sister, and my sister-in-law and her husband. We all made different foods for, all the different meals that hobbits make. We did breakfast, second breakfast, 11sies, tea time, supper, and dinner, I want to say, are the different ones. I could be missing one. But it was just so fun to actually make it themed, to, put out decoration for it, and just spend a day doing that with just all things cozy. So I definitely encourage that if you have other friends or family that love the Lord of the Rings, to do that. It is such a fun time and just makes the movies that much better. And then another level, so we're like, okay, we did the marathon, we did the whole planned themed marathon, and then we're like, okay, we have to watch the extended ones. What are we doing? Why haven't we watched the extended ones yet? So we ended up buying all the extended ones and watching all of them through. That one, we definitely took our time and didn't do it all in one day. But it's one of those, and someone told us before, because we were telling them yeah, we're planning to watch all the extended, and they're like, oh, once you watch the extended, you can't go back. And I can attest to that. Once we watch the extended versions, we're like, this is not the same movie without all these little scenes. And I feel like, especially as someone that loves the book, and because movies have to cut out so much details of the book, that was such a treat to just see all your favorite places like the Shire or Rivendell have extra scenes. And so that was such a cool experience to be able to see more content. And I feel like it adds to the story, because it's not just a bunch of fighting scenes. Not that that's all that the original movie is, but it fills in the story so much more. It adds so many more scenes from the book in there. It adds depth to the story, and it helps explain the story more so. So I would definitely encourage the extended versions for those who love it. Anyways, I could talk about the Lord of the Rings for a long time, in Middle Earth and Tolkien and all that. His life is incredible. As you can see, I have gotten many of his books, not even close to all the books he's written. And this is not including some books that are either inspired by him or that are about him. But yeah, my goal is to continue reading his books until I've read all of them. Yeah, I feel like especially when there's dark things that happen, that you see in the news or around the world. One time actually when there was a really sad moment, I remember turning on the Lord of the Rings and just getting comfort from all the wisdom that, Gandalf and Bilbo and all of them impart, and Frodo and Aragorn, and just all these life lessons that, yeah, it's a fantasy world, but it can be applied to our world. And it just shows that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're not alone in all this. We have people around us that also believe in good and not evil, and I truly believe that good will triumph evil in the end. And as a believer in the Bible and in Jesus Christ, I firmly stand on that, and There are a lot of things that go wrong in the world, and a lot of things that we don't understand, but I know that in the end, Jesus has victory. We have victory as followers of Christ, and it will be even more amazing when we get to heaven than any fantasy book that has ever been written. And there have been a lot of really good ones, as I've just talked about this entire video, but eternity will be something else, and it will be with the one who created this world and one who created all of us, and anything good that is in this world, he has created it. And so I'm very much looking forward to that day. As always, if there's anything you want me to talk about in future videos, if there's anything else that you want me to cover, please leave a comment below.